Hello, this is Tiffany. I'm back again to talk at you about human design in this case. I've done a lot of content about human design, and I really tried to cover all of the different energy types, even when I don't have lived experience. And I think as a human design reader, that's one of the most challenging things, at least in the beginning when I was learning, that was difficult to work through is how do I speak to a projector, for example, when I'm not a projector? How do I talk to them about splenic authority when I don't have splenic authority? So, in this video, what I wanted to talk about was my lived experience as a manifesting generator with sacral authority. So if you're a generator or a manifesting generator with sacral authority, this video might be insightful or helpful to you for sure. I do think I'm going to cover some things that are helpful to just people in general, no matter what your energy type is. But for sure, this is coming through the lens of I'm a manifesting generator talking about sacral authority. And before I get into the heart of what I want to say, I just want to mention that I do have a website. It's www.aluxuriousmind.com. You will find it in the notes below. There you can find a very extensive blog on human design in particular, but I talk about a lot of things, magical, astrology, tarot cards, divination, things like that. I even have had people tell me they can read their entire chart by themselves just by looking at my website and referencing the information I have there. And that was a huge compliment. I also have a free library where you can go in and get tools. And so it's completely free. I don't even ask you for an email. So there's nothing like that. And I have planners, I have manifestation tools, I have manifestation coloring books, I have human design flow charts, and I've got like all kinds of stuff in there that is absolutely free. So go check it out if that is something that interests you. Okay, so let me talk about my lived experience as a manifesting generator. All right, so I discovered human design back in, I want to say like 2017 or 18. And I was listening to a podcast. I was actually listening to Lacey Phillips, who is the to be magnetic, like manifestation person. And she was interviewing Jenna Zoe. And as soon as I heard it, I was hooked because I am a sucker. I won't lie. I'm a sucker for all things personality types, astrology, like bring it. I'm in. I want to know what I am and I want to know what it says about me. And as soon as I could, I went and found a free chart calculator and I discovered I was a manifesting generator. And when I read the description online for a manifesting generator, it was so validating to me. I can't even tell you. I almost had an attitude because I was like, oh my gosh, this makes complete sense. This is why I am the way I am. When I pivot all over the place and I'm doing all the things, and this just makes so much sense. And so then what ended up happening was I started to really get into human design in general. Jenna Zoe offered reader trainings. I did all of her reader trainings. I became a recommended reader for her for a couple of years, few years. And then now I'm on my own. But over the course of that time, I have been trying to live my design and really pay attention to how these things show up so that I can speak to it when I'm talking to other people. Because I think it's really important to have a deep understanding and be able to communicate something in a way that makes sense to the other person on the other side. Being a manifesting generator, and again, applies to generators, having that sacral respond, that to respond response, which is our strategy, right? And then also having the sacral authority as intuition, the voice that says, how do I know if something's yes or no for me? How do I know if something's energetically correct for me? All right, so the textbook says if you take a human design course or you actually buy the legit book or whatever, it's going to tell you that as a generator or manifesting generator, that we have a physical response of excitement to things that are lighting us up, right? And that we are going to feel that in our body. I can tell you that most of the time, that is not a good measure of how I know that I'm having a sacral response to something. It's very rare that I will get excited about something to the point where I exclaim or I like sit up in my chair or like I have a physical response. I can think of a few times where I was maybe walking through a mall or something and I saw this a super cool, like had to be amazing thing. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to have that, right? Like that's happened a few times. But the thing is, the reality is that when you're looking for and you're living your strategy, or at least I'll say my lived experience. I don't want to speak for other people. I'm not walking around like excited about life all the time. That's not how this happens. What is a better measure for me if I'm living my design and my strategy and authority is that moment in the evening when I'm sitting down, I've done my work for the day, and am I feeling it's the signature. Am I feeling satisfied with life? When I go to bed at night and I just kind of like sink and I'm like, whew, do I feel good? Like, do I feel like my sacral energy has been expended in a healthy, beautiful way that it's meant to be expended? That is it a way that's in alignment for me? To me, that is the best indicator of whether or not I'm leaning into my design. The other thing I want to say is that even if I have a response to something like, oh my goodness, this thing excites me, I want to get into it more, I want to look into it more. There's two things I want to say. The first is sometimes in my experience, I have multiple sacral responses that are a step in the path. Okay. I will give you an example in 1 second. And then the other thing I want to say is that, as Jenna Zoe has said before, sometimes we need to get our hands dirty and play with the thing to know if it really lights us up. So, for example, if you have an initial hit and something's exciting to you, and then you get into it a little bit, and then you're like, this is not exciting to me anymore. That's perfect. We should not have any negative stories about this when that happens. We need to trust that maybe there's this reason why we had that initial spark of excitement. We pursued the thing and then we discovered it's not for us. So I just want everyone who's generator, manifesting generator, when they're following that sacral response, sometimes it's going to continue to light you up for a while, for years and years and years, or sometimes it can be like a 2-week, 2-minute thing. And that's okay. We need to get our hands dirty and we need to make friends with the word pivot. Pivoting, there's power in the pivot, in my opinion, when you're a generator or manifesting generator and you're following that sacral response. Because if we start pushing through something, maybe something sparked our excitement, and then we continue to push through it, even when it's no longer exciting to us. And the reason we're not pivoting is because we're saying, oh, we have a story. I don't finish things, or I'm a quitter, or people are going to think I'm flighty, or I'm all over the place, whatever it is. So make sure to reframe that and understand that part of your process might be, generators and manifesting generators are here to play. They're here to bring energy to the world. They're here to create energy. And part of that requires them to be playing, have a playful spirit, right? So when you're playing with something and it no longer lights you up, it's okay. There's power in the pivot. Move on to the next thing that is. So then let me get back to what I said earlier about my lived experience having sacral authority, how sometimes I will get hits that take me on this path. So what doesn't happen for me is I don't get a sacral hit of, say, I'm going to write a book. And I'm excited about the idea of writing the book. And I have this great idea of what book I'm going to write. And I know exactly when I'm going to write it and what time I'm going to write it and how many pages is going to be and all of that. That's not what happens for me. So let me give you an example. A few weeks ago, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about self-publishing. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm having this sacral response. I'm like, yeah, that's something I want to do. That idea just really excites me. And I've always wanted to write a book ever since I was a kid. And then in that moment, it's not like I drop everything and go write a book. What what ends up happening for me is that I'm like, noted, I had a response to writing a book. That's an exciting idea to me. Have no idea what I would write this book about, but great. Then a couple weeks go by, just let it go. Then a couple weeks go by, and I get this. I don't know what sparked it. It came from somewhere. And I got really excited about the idea of the book and the book title specifically. And I knew exactly what I would put into the book. And I was having a sacral response to that. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is lighting me up. It's so fantastic. I love it. And friends, I will tell you that I'm now waiting for the sacral response to tell me when to take the action to write the book. So for me, in my lived experience, this is just me. I don't know if this relates to anybody else out there, but it's not that I get a sacral response and boom, it's like done and dusted. I do the thing and then it becomes this thing. It's really more I'm following and listening to that sacral response, that excitement over time as it hits on different things. And in my experience, sometimes I'm having the response to the idea of the thing. Sometimes I'm having the response to this is the right time. Sometimes I'm having the response to it's let's take action, that sort of thing. So it's, if you can see, it's not this just one hit wonder when it comes to your sacral response. It's something that's there to guide over time. And so the last thing I want to leave you with is, especially for generators and manifesting generators, is we don't have to finish everything we think is good. And at the same time, we don't need to have an idea fully baked before we start playing with it. The more we play with it, we will get the sacral response that tells us, yes, keep going, or no, hey, it's time to pivot. And that, I think, is the most important thing I wanted to say today. All right, so that is all I have to say about that. If you have any questions for me, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much and have a great day.